I never thought I'd see him again. Not after 20 years. Not after everything that had happened. And yet there he was, standing in front of me, smiling as if no time had passed. The man who once tried to charm my wife, who once promised the world and then disappeared, was back. My name is Robert Jenkins, I'm 62 years old, and before you see what happens next in my life, subscribe to this channel. If you've ever faced betrayal or someone trying to sneak back into your life after decades, comment your city or country. I want to hear your story. Because what I'm about to tell you nearly destroyed everything I had worked for. Our family business wasn't just a business. It was our legacy. Decades of sweat, sleepless nights, and risks, all invested into building something meaningful. And he thought he could just waltz back and take it. It all started one ordinary Tuesday. I was in my office, going through some financial statements, when my assistant knocked. "Sir, someone's here to see you. Says it's urgent." I frowned. The last time I saw him, I was barely 40. He had been my wife's ex-boyfriend. I had warned her about him. And yet she had kept a polite distance from him for years. I didn't expect him to return, especially not with a plan to threaten everything I had built. When he walked in, the first thing I noticed was his confidence. Not the charming confidence of a young man in love. This was calculated, dangerous, predatory confidence. He looked at me and said, "Robert, long time no see." I forced a polite smile. "Yes, it has been a while." He didn't wait. He came straight to the point. "I hear your business has grown a lot." "Impressive," he said. "But I think we can work together." That's when my blood ran cold. He didn't say hello, didn't ask about the family. He said, "We can work together." Translation. He wanted control. I asked calmly, "What do you mean?" He leaned in. "Your wife always thought I had the vision for this company. I can help you, or take it further." My heart skipped. He was testing me. Seeing how much I feared him. I looked him straight in the eye. "This company isn't just about vision. It's about trust, hard work, and loyalty. Something you never understood 20 years ago." He chuckled softly. "That was then. Things are different now. I have experience. I have connections. I can make this business unstoppable." I knew the game had begun. And I wasn't about to let him win. The next few days were a test. He started visiting suppliers, clients, and old contacts. Trying to insert himself. Trying to convince them that he was the missing piece, the rightful leader, the man who could fix everything. But he didn't realize something crucial. Relationships aren't just built on charm. They are built on trust. And 20 years of working, paying your dues, and being honest, that trust doesn't vanish overnight. Yet, his influence began creeping in. Some employees were unsure. Some clients wavered. I couldn't ignore it. I had to act. But I couldn't be reactive. He was clever. Patient. Calculating. I decided to monitor quietly first. Take notes. Observe patterns. Understand his methods. He made small mistakes, overpromising, talking too much, revealing gaps in his knowledge. I noted them all. Every meeting. Every phone call. Every email. Meanwhile, I strengthened relationships. Called long-term suppliers personally. Met clients face to face. Made it clear, subtly, who truly ran the company. Then came the first direct challenge. He sent a letter, formal, polite, professional, suggesting a partnership. At first glance, it looked harmless. But I knew the subtext. He wanted leverage, the ability to claim part of the business. I didn't respond immediately. I let the letter sit on my desk. Meanwhile, I gathered evidence. Records of his past failures. Instances where he had vanished years ago. Any small sign that showed he wasn't trustworthy. This wasn't personal. It was survival. My family's survival. And then he tried to charm my youngest son, Jacob. He visited him at school events, bought gifts, offered mentorship. And Jacob, naive and trusting, was drawn to him. I realized the danger wasn't just the business. It was the influence he could have over my family. So I took a firm step. I called a family meeting. My wife, of course, was uneasy but supportive. We explained everything to Jacob and the older children. We showed them the evidence. We explained how he operated. And most importantly, we reminded them what loyalty, respect, and family meant. He called that night. He wanted to meet privately. I agreed under one condition: we meet in my office, with cameras running. That was the first mistake he made. He didn't understand that trust and transparency were my weapons now. When he arrived, he tried to play charming again. Polite, flattering, persuasive. I listened. Calmly. Patiently. And then I asked one question. "Why should I trust you now?" He faltered. The first crack appeared. And I pressed. Every claim he made, I countered with facts. Every promise, I compared to his history. Every subtle threat, I revealed calmly, publicly. By the end of the meeting, the smile was gone. The confidence wavered. And for the first time, I saw fear. He left that night claiming he'd think it over. But I knew better. The next morning, I reinforced security. I spoke to employees, suppliers, and clients. I made subtle but strong statements. This company belongs to the family. Not to someone who vanished for 20 years and returned to steal it. By the end of that week, his attempts to influence weakened. Small cracks started to appear in his strategy. And I realized something crucial: patience, observation, and a clear mind are stronger than any charm or aggressive takeover. This was just the beginning. The days after that first confrontation were tense. Not loud, not obvious, but thick with the weight of his presence. He started coming to the office more often. Not casually. Not politely. Deliberately. Strategically. I noticed the subtle ways he tried to establish dominance. Sliding into meetings I was running. Offering unsolicited advice to staff. Laying out plans that sounded good, but were hollow. He had charm. I couldn't deny that. Some of the younger employees were drawn to it. They hadn't seen the old history. They didn't know what kind of man he truly was. So I watched. Quietly. Observing every move, every interaction. Then came the first mistake. He tried to convince our largest supplier to give him direct authority. He called them friendly, persuasive, almost flattering. But I had already spoken to them. Established trust. Reminded them, subtly, of the history and reliability of the family business. When the supplier politely refused him, I could see the flash of frustration in his eyes. He tried again the next day, visiting the office personally. Meeting our long-term clients. Using charm, using promises. I didn't interfere directly. I let him stumble. I let him reveal himself through his own impatience. Meanwhile, I quietly strengthened our internal defenses. I held one-on-one meetings with key staff. Reminded them of our core values. Shared updates, honest, clear, transparent. He noticed. He tried subtle intimidation. A sarcastic comment here, a pointed suggestion there. Small maneuvers, testing loyalty. But loyalty isn't won with intimidation. It's built with respect, history, and consistency. And I had all three on my side. The next week, he made a bold move. He sent a formal letter to the board, proposing a strategic partnership. On the surface, it sounded reasonable. But beneath it, it was a power grab. He wanted leverage. He wanted a foothold. He wanted to shake the foundation of what I had built. I studied the letter carefully. Analyzed every line. Prepared a subtle but decisive response. I didn't confront him directly. I let our network respond on my behalf. Clients, suppliers, key employees. All subtly reminded of our history, our trust, our reliability. He began to realize that influence wasn't as easy as he thought. Then came the personal angle. He tried to manipulate my family. Our children. Especially my youngest, who barely remembered him. He bought gifts. Offered guidance. Tried to insert himself into their lives. I had anticipated this. We called a family meeting. Explained everything. Showed the risks. Shared what history had taught us. The family was skeptical at first. It's human nature. New energy can be seductive. But once the evidence and the stories were laid out, they understood. He wasn't the charming figure from 20 years ago. He was opportunistic. And dangerous to our business. The next confrontation was inevitable. He requested a private meeting with me. I agreed, but only in the office, with cameras running. When he arrived, he tried his charm again. Polite, smooth, persuasive. I listened. Calmly. Patiently. Then I asked one question. Why should I trust you now? He faltered. I pressed. Every promise he made, I countered with facts. Every claim he repeated, I revealed with evidence of past failures. By the end of that meeting, his confidence had cracked. For the first time, I saw hesitation. Doubt. He left, claiming he needed time to consider the proposal. I knew better. The next few days, he tried indirect tactics. Calling clients. Sending emails. Meeting suppliers after hours. But I had anticipated all of it. Every move was countered quietly. No confrontation. No shouting. Trust, after all, can't be rushed. Then came the biggest mistake he made. He underestimated the loyalty of my staff. 3 key employees, loyal for over a decade, refused to be influenced. They reported every attempt to me discreetly. They reminded him politely that the business had built their careers, and it wasn't up for grabs. He grew impatient. Frustration replaced charm. Every move he made began to backfire. I could see it in his eyes. He was losing control. Slowly. Methodically. Quietly. One evening he called me. Not arrogantly. Not aggressively. Desperately. I can't get through to them, he admitted. The clients, the staff, they won't listen. I said nothing. Just let him speak. Because desperation reveals truth. He confessed more than he intended. His plans, his impatience, his miscalculations. I didn't react publicly. I let him leave with his pride intact. But internally I prepared. Because he would make another move. He always did. The following week, he attempted one last attempt to assert control. A meeting with the largest client, without my knowledge. Trying to lock in a deal. But the client, loyal to me and aware of the history, insisted I join. He tried to manipulate the situation, but he failed. Every argument he made, every pitch he delivered, I countered calmly. Facts. History. Relationships. By the end of the meeting, the client's loyalty had clearly shifted back to me. He left, frustrated and shaken. It was the first time I saw real fear in him. And I knew then that patience and quiet observation were stronger than charm, aggression, or audacity. The week ended with him retreating quietly. No public outburst. No confrontation. Just simmering frustration. I realized one crucial thing. The battle was never about the business alone. It was about trust, loyalty, and understanding who truly belongs in the family, and who just thinks they do. And this was only the beginning. The next phase, when he realizes the walls are closing in, would be far more revealing. The following week felt heavier than any week I could remember. Not because of workload. Not because of clients. But because of him. He was everywhere, in meetings, on calls, even dropping by the office unannounced. But this time, it wasn't charm. It was panic. He had started making mistakes. Small ones at first, numbers miscalculated, meetings double-booked, messages sent to the wrong clients. But I noticed a pattern. He was reacting instead of leading. Staff started whispering. Some of them came to me quietly, unsure of what to do. But the truth was simple: they had been waiting for someone steady. And I was that someone. I didn't confront him directly. I let his actions speak. Let his mistakes reveal his lack of control. One afternoon, he made a critical error. He promised the supplier a large order that our inventory couldn't support. The supplier called me, confused, asking for clarification. I stayed calm. I corrected the issue quietly. And he didn't know I had handled it until later. The next day, I noticed him pacing outside my office. He was muttering under his breath, frustrated and exhausted. I called him in. "Robert," he said, forcing a smile, "I think we need to discuss the future. Your presence. It's interfering." I leaned back. "Interfering? You mean preventing mistakes?" He hesitated. Then, almost angrily, "I need freedom to implement my vision. I can't work with you hovering over every decision." I smiled faintly. "Freedom? You're panicking, not leading." The tension in the room was palpable. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Every word, every calm pause, was more powerful than any shout. After he left, the staff who had witnessed the conversation subtly approached me. Their relief was visible. People don't respect panic. They follow clarity. Over the next few days, his mistakes multiplied. Client emails went unanswered. Reports were misfiled. Appointments missed. And he began blaming the staff quietly. Not publicly, but enough that they started to tread carefully around him. Fear replaced respect. Not a good sign for someone trying to seize control. Meanwhile, I continued reinforcing relationships. A phone call here, a personal visit there. Subtle reminders of trust, history, and loyalty. I didn't have to threaten, convince, or manipulate. The foundation I had built over decades was unshakable. Then came the pivotal moment. He tried to convince my eldest son, Matthew, to side with him. He sent gifts, messages, and even offered business advice. He wanted leverage within the family. I noticed immediately. Matthew came to me with questions, clearly torn. I explained everything calmly. The risks, the history, and most importantly, the truth about the man who had vanished for 20 years. Matthew understood. And that was one less ally for the ex-boyfriend. He made another critical mistake the very next week. He called a major client, someone who had been with us for decades, and tried to negotiate a deal without informing me. The client, loyal and cautious, asked to speak to me directly. He panicked. His tone changed. He realized he didn't have the authority he thought he did. That night, he called me. "Robert, you're making this difficult," he said, frustration creeping into his voice. I didn't answer immediately. I let him speak. He revealed more than he intended. Plans, frustrations, miscalculations. He was unraveling. The next day, I quietly tightened the team around me. I spoke to senior employees one-on-one. Clarified roles. Gently reminded everyone of the values that had made the business strong. He noticed. And he reacted. Subtle intimidation. Pointed comments. Micromanaging staff. But it was too late. The cracks in his plan were visible. Loyalty had shifted. Then came his most reckless move. He tried to announce a major strategic decision, a partnership with a new investor, without my approval. The employees, loyal and aware, refused to go along. The investor, cautious and informed, contacted me directly for verification. He realized, too late, that influence isn't claimed with charm or audacity. It's earned. I remained calm. I didn't gloat. I let him see the consequences of his own impatience. By the end of that week, he was visibly shaken. One evening, he appeared at my office door. No greeting. No charm. Just tension. I can't handle this," he admitted quietly, almost defeated. "Everyone listens to you. I don't know what to do." I remained calm. "You made choices," I said. You rushed. You assumed. You tried to claim what wasn't yours. And now you're seeing the results. It wasn't a threat. It was truth. He left that night, quiet and thoughtful. For the first time in 20 years, I saw him unsure of himself. The next few days were calm but tense. No overt moves, no dramatic confrontations. Just the subtle realization that his presence alone wasn't enough to claim power. And then came the board's involvement. They hadn't been aware of the personal drama. They only saw operational discrepancies. I explained quietly, factually, about his unsanctioned attempts and the risks involved. The board's confidence in him wavered. Not because I influenced them forcefully, but because evidence, transparency, and truth are hard to ignore. He was now truly cornered. Panicking quietly. Making errors faster than he could recover. And that's when I realized something important. Victory isn't about confrontation. It's about patience, clarity, and letting truth reveal itself. He was unraveling. Not because of me, but because he revealed himself through his own actions. And I knew that the next phase, when he fully realizes he is losing control, would be the most revealing. The week before the final confrontation felt heavier than anything I had faced in decades. Not because of clients, operations, or the usual chaos of running a business. It was heavier because of him. Daniel, my wife's ex-boyfriend, was now panicking openly. The calm, charming confidence he had once worn like armor was gone. Every move he made revealed cracks. Small mistakes had become bigger mistakes. And I could see him unraveling piece by piece. It began with the staff. He tried subtle intimidation. Sarcastic remarks. Micromanaging senior employees who had been loyal for decades. He assumed fear would equal control. It didn't. Instead, employees whispered, exchanged glances, and approached me quietly. They were confused, yes, but not convinced. They were loyal because trust isn't bought, and it isn't borrowed. It's earned. Daniel didn't realize how deeply ingrained our foundation was. Next, he tried manipulating clients. A long-term client received an email from him, full of promises he couldn't deliver. He tried to close a deal that relied on inventory and processes he didn't fully understand. The client, loyal to me, asked for clarification directly from me. He panicked. His carefully rehearsed confidence faltered. Meanwhile, I worked quietly in the background. I called key suppliers. Met clients personally. Subtly reminded them of the relationships we had built, the risks we had managed together, and the consistency they could rely on. Daniel noticed. His frustration grew. And then the mistakes multiplied. One afternoon, he accidentally double-booked 2 critical meetings. Both clients expected decisions that required operational knowledge he didn't possess. I noticed it immediately. I intervened quietly, corrected the errors, and made sure he had no idea I had done it. That night, he called me. I can't get through to anyone, he admitted. They won't listen. The staff, the clients, everyone seems to follow you. I said nothing. Let him reveal himself. Desperation has a way of showing the truth. Over the next few days, he made his boldest move yet. A major investor meeting. He attempted to promise investment and operational control without my approval. But the investor, cautious and informed, reached out to me directly. Daniel's plan collapsed. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Truth has a louder voice than any display of anger or charm. Then came the family. He tried subtly influencing my youngest son, Jacob. Gifts. Mentorship. Attention. He wanted leverage within the family to strengthen his position. I anticipated this. A family meeting was called. The evidence, his patterns, and the potential risks were explained. My children listened, questioned, and finally understood. Loyalty shifted. He had no allies left. And then came his most reckless decision. Daniel tried to announce a new partnership, without consulting anyone else. He thought it would showcase his vision. Instead, it revealed his recklessness. Staff refused to participate. The investor demanded clarification from me. His panic escalated. By now, his mistakes weren't subtle. They were visible. Every failure compounded the last. Every misstep eroded whatever charm he had left. And then, the pivotal moment. He walked into my office, exhausted, panicked, and hesitant. "I don't know what to do," he admitted quietly. "Everyone listens to you. I can't control this." I remained calm. "You chose to rush, to push, to manipulate," I said. "You assumed authority without earning trust. And now you see the results." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't anger. It was the truth. He left that night, humbled, frustrated, and visibly shaken. The following days were quiet but tense. No dramatic confrontations. No shouting. Just the subtle awareness that his control was gone. And that's when I realized something important. Victory in these battles isn't about aggression. It's about patience, clarity, observation, letting truth reveal itself through actions and mistakes. By the end of the week, Daniel's panic had peaked. He had begun isolating himself, making poor decisions in haste, losing credibility not only with staff but with clients and suppliers. I remained steady, observing, guiding, reinforcing relationships. The final showdown was imminent. It wouldn't be a court case. It wouldn't be legal battles. It would be about one thing: authority, trust, and respect. And Daniel, for the first time in 20 years, realized he couldn't take what wasn't his to claim. The board had been informed of the situation. They hadn't interfered yet, but they were watching. And when they saw the pattern, mistakes, panic, reckless moves, their confidence in him wavered. And that, finally, set the stage for the resolution. This was the moment where years of strategy, patience, and observation converged. Where truth would prevail. Where loyalty would shine. Where the legacy I had built would remain intact. The next week would decide everything. And I felt ready. Because control taken by force never lasts. But authority earned through consistency, transparency, and trust, that lasts forever. The final confrontation didn't come with fanfare. No dramatic emails. No shouting matches. Just a quiet meeting. Daniel arrived tense. Not arrogant. Not charming. Just unsure. Hesitant. He had realized that all his attempts to take control had failed. The board members were present, but not to intervene. They were observers, waiting to see how this would unfold. I greeted him politely. "Daniel," I said. "Thank you for coming." He nodded, avoiding my eyes. The meeting began. No dramatic accusations. No shouting. Just facts. History. Truth. The board had prepared a summary of his recent attempts, mistakes, oversights, and missteps. But I didn't need to add much. His own actions had already told the story. I began calmly. "Daniel, you have talent, vision, ambition. But ambition without patience destroys more than it creates. Leadership isn't taken. It's earned. And trust isn't granted lightly. It's built over decades." He swallowed hard. No response. Then I addressed the board. "I am ready to continue leading this business, with my family and loyal staff. And Daniel is welcome to contribute, under guidance, as part of the team." The board members nodded. Polite agreement. But more importantly, relief. Daniel finally spoke. I understand now," he admitted quietly. "I tried to rush. I thought charm and ambition were enough. I didn't realize trust and history mattered more than ideas alone." For the first time, he looked genuinely remorseful. Not angry. Not defensive. I never wanted to hurt anyone," he said softly. I thought I deserved a place." I nodded slowly. "Deserve is earned, not claimed. And you learned that the hard way." He looked down, the weight of his mistakes visible in every line of his face. Over the next few days, Daniel worked quietly. He apologized to staff, clarified miscommunications with clients, tried to repair relationships he had damaged. And in doing so, he became better. Not stronger, not faster, but steadier. He had learned humility, patience, the value of consistency. Meanwhile, the company stabilized completely. Operations ran smoothly. Clients were reassured. Staff regained confidence. The family was finally at peace. One evening, Daniel came to my office. He looked at me with honesty I hadn't seen in years. "I was afraid of becoming irrelevant," he admitted. "So I tried to erase you instead. I thought if I removed you, I'd prove myself." I smiled faintly. "You didn't need to remove anyone. Leadership isn't a zero-sum game, and respect cannot be stolen." He nodded slowly. "I know that now." That was closure. Not dramatic. Not loud. But real. Weeks later, clients and suppliers remarked on the sudden calm. The company had survived a major threat. Not through fights, not through lawsuits, not through shouting, but through patience, observation, and trust. Daniel continued to learn. The younger employees saw him grow in humility. The family saw reconciliation. And I realized something important. Control taken by force never lasts. Authority earned through trust, patience, and consistent action lasts forever. Years later, people would recall this period. They would talk about the ex-boyfriend who tried to take over a family business. They would discuss mistakes, near disasters, and chaos. But what they wouldn't see was the quiet strength behind it all. The truth. That patient observation, calm strategy, and integrity can overcome even the most audacious attempts at betrayal. And that is how I saved my family's business. Not by confrontation. Not by anger. Not by force. By being steady. By being consistent. By letting truth reveal itself. Daniel eventually found his place, not as the ruler he imagined, but as a contributing part of something bigger. And I learned another lesson too. Letting people test you isn't weakness. It's an opportunity to show them the value of trust, patience, and wisdom. Because sometimes, the strongest move isn't fighting back loudly. It's standing firm while everything around you shakes. And when the shaking ends, the truth is still standing. The legacy is still intact. The family is still united. And the lesson is clear. No one can steal what's earned.